Hello, Kit. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Um,
It's
it's
it's a
no, it's
pleasure.
yeah, no, it's great to have you. We, for the listeners out there, we've sort of known each other for a while, but kind of indirectly, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we kind of talked about it in the beginning when you weren't recording, but we met through Reddit, I think,
Yeah, it
if I
was.
remember correctly.
I did a little bit of design for you and your partner who were making. It's like an apparel company you were working on at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was an apparel company for Okinawa, and I went to Reddit Okinawa to try to like find, or Japan to find somebody who could do designs for us because we weren't living in Okinawa at the time. And you reached out. You were living in what, Fukuoka at the time,
I
somewhere
might
in
have.
mainland.
Yeah, I might. I was either in Fukuoka or I was back in New Zealand. I'm not entirely certain, but I think
Yeah.
that the fact that I lived there is probably why we kind of stayed in touch because I think we had a few sort of common experiences being, because for the listeners out there, Kit lives in Okinawa. Did you ever live in the States?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Okinawa until I was 20, and then when I turned 20, I moved to the States for 10 years. So I lived in California, NorCal for 10 years, and then I moved back home right at the beginning of 2020 before COVID.
Oh, great time to move back, I suppose.
Yeah.
Eh?
It was
Um,
crazy because when we came back 3 weeks later, everything just shut down. So we just got in at the right time.
yeah, and then funnily enough, I was in Fukuoka probably I can't remember when. I think the lockdown here started in February, and I was there in like November or something. So I was very not far off when it all kind of
Yeah.
kicked off. I was in that part of the world as well. I was going to say, so are you like, not to get like weird, but like, are you 100% Japanese or are you a what do they refer to? Hafu?
Yeah, what am I? Yeah, I'm a hafu, so I'm
Are you really?
half Japanese, half American. My dad was a Navy guy who was stationed in Okinawa, and it's like just followed the trajectory of the like a Navy man marrying a local, and
Yeah,
then I
yeah.
was born.
I was living in Fukuoka, which is close to Sasebo, so there's a lot
Oh
of
yeah,
that going on as well because there's a navy base there. I think
yeah.
Sasebo was the place that they would take American currency. Do they use American money in Okinawa as well?
Yeah, they do. They have a huge. I think it was. I know Sasebo's pretty. I don't know if it's big, but Okinawa is massive for the
Yeah,
military community. So, I mean, dollars are seen pretty frequently here. Obviously, yen is the main currency, but yeah,
yeah.
you see a lot of dollars. Yeah.
The what was I going to say? I was actually curious to ask this about you, like if you feel comfortable talking about what it's like being kind of from two different worlds. I've heard that it can be tough for Japanese people to sort of feel like they're at home in Japan, and then also when they go overseas, they don't feel quite like settled. Is that your kind of experience, or have you felt pretty chill about it?
Yeah. I have. You know what? I'm like I've never, well, I won't say ever, but early on, I think that insecurity kind of got taken out of me. I know like a lot of my friends who are half foos still to this day struggle with their identity. You know, they don't feel like they quite belong in Japan, but they don't also feel like they quite belong in wherever, America or
Yeah,
whatever. But for me, I was really blessed earlier on to have somebody tell me that it's actually more of a superpower to be able to meld into two different communities so
very cool.
seamlessly.
Yeah.
So I have a tendency to look at it as more of like this cool epic thing. But there were times when I was a kid where I would get kind of embarrassed of like my
Mm.
dad or my mom. But luckily, it didn't. That insecurity never didn't stick with me.
Yeah, that's great. I've got young cousins who they're half as well, and I they were too young to understand it, but I was trying to get them to understand one time like how useful it's going to be to be able to speak English if you want to go like anywhere else in the world. Um,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they were a little bit too young to really grasp the idea of like the outside world. So I don't think it really, I don't think it really sunk in at all.
Yeah, I felt that too. I think for me it was really annoying as a kid because my dad didn't speak any Japanese, so I would have to translate for him. So I'd be like this 8-year old kid trying to translate to a mechanic what's wrong with the engine of a car.
Oh
And you're
wow,
like, how do you do that? And so being relied upon at such a young age to have to try to translate between two different languages was a little
yeah.
stressful.
Yeah, no
But
kidding.
now I'm very grateful.
Yeah.
So,
One of those
awesome.
things that at the time was probably not a lot of fun, but as use would have done in the past. I have a piece
Yeah.
in my stand-up routine about um, having to help translate a Japanese woman giving birth in New Zealand. And the funny part of the joke comes when the first line is the doctor saying, tell her everything's going to be okay. The doctors are very good. And I'm like, sweet. And then he's like, okay, now tell him that we need to check how dilated her cervix is. And I'm like, oh, hang on a second. I don't know any of these words.
break out the Google Translate.
Yeah. Exactly. So you must speak Japanese still pretty much every day being over there?
It's kind of embarrassing, but I think for me, I'm a lot more strong in my English. And I think when you're half, you're either strong in one or the other. I mean, there are people who are really good at both, but you definitely grow up leaning more to one side than the other. And I grew up going to the military provides schooling for Americanized schooling for people who work for the military, the kids. So I got all my education was Americanized. So I never went to a Japanese school. The only Japanese that I spoke with was the neighborhood kids and my family. My sister, on the other hand, is the opposite. She went to a Japanese school, completely super Japanese. She speaks English, but her English isn't as strong as her Japanese. So it's
fascinating. There's one thing I love talking about people that actually do speak Japanese, because I got, right now my level is probably much lower, but when I was living there, I had the second highest level of the JLPT, which was at the time it was pretty good. Do you find that your personality changes depending on what language you're conversing in?
Yeah. I never thought so until a friend pointed out to me. I think my voice gets a little bit more higher pitched when I speak Japanese. I'm a little bit more reserved.
Yeah.
Because when you're dealing with Japanese people, they're very
reserved
people. So
what is it called? Honne and Tatemaya?
Yeah, honne and Tatemaya.
Which is how would you explain that to the listeners?
Honne and Tatemaya is so there's apparently two faces that Japanese people have. One where they show to themselves, or actually three faces. One they show to themselves, one they show to people that they're close to, and then one they show off to people strangers and people that they don't know. And it's very, very different personality. And a lot of times the face that they show to the rest of the world is very reserved and very quiet.
Yeah.
So when you're dealing, because I want to be as respectful as possible. That's the biggest thing is when I'm dealing with Japanese people, I tend to be more cognizant of their maybe reservedness.
Yeah.
Whereas with Americans are so they love to talk, right?
So
open, so much more open, which I actually kind of miss sometimes. I remember, my sister was visiting me in California one time, and we went to, I don't know, to get my oil changed on a car. And the clerk and I were joking back and forth. And she was like, man, you would never see that in Japan. Just joking back and forth with the clerk. And I've never met this guy in my life.
Yeah. I've heard us Kiwis can be a bit like that. We have a pretty strong honme. No, Tatema is the one you show to everybody else, right?
Yeah.
Apparently New Zealanders are very hesitant to talk about anything deeper than surface level in the beginning. We may warm up to people eventually, but it may not be so different over here.
But I mean, I think that's kind of where I think the superpower comes in, is to be able to, because it actually helps when you travel the world too, because you have a better understanding of there's more different cultures and different personalities than the one you grew up with.
Yeah.
And so I think it's easier for me to pick apart how people act. And so it's easier for me to meld into places because
as soon as you learn another language, suddenly it's almost like you kind of understand how the rest of them, not how they work, but you're kind of oh, okay, I kind of get how language sort of shapes culture and personality in a few ways.
It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah.
I was going to ask you as well, when you were in the States, because I've been wanting someone to commiserate about just things I missed from Japan. And I've got.
How long has it been since you've been in Japan?
Been about. Oh no, it's been longer than that. It's been about 6 years now. I came back in 2018.
Holy
so
shit.
yeah, at this point, I've been sort of like away. I've been back kind of longer than I was there. So, but well, I'll start with the thing that I miss the most is the convenience stores.
Oh yeah.
Just the fact that you can be stumbling home at like 1 a.m. and you can be like a little hungry and you can walk in and get like the onigiri is the perfect size because it's only,
oh my gosh,
you can just have like, one, or you can get like multiple ones and it's, you just don't, even though you're being a glutton, you don't really feel like a glutton because you can just get one if you want to. And
yeah. And it's so cheap too.
So cheap. It's like $1 or something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so cheap.
140 yen or something, which is like maybe $2 New Zealand.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a friend of mine who came to visit us, and it was their first time in February.
Yeah.
And we introduced him to the onigiri, and he was like, "This is the perfect food. This is a superfood. This should be everywhere."
I agree.
It's got a little protein, carbs. Oh, yeah,
and it's like in a nice package. You can open it and eat it. I've heard. I've heard it's rude to eat and walk around in Japan, but I never got in trouble for doing it. So I don't know if that was a founded or unfounded rumor.
You know what? I heard the same thing. I don't know though, because like I think like mainland Japanese.
Yeah, there's a difference, isn't there?
There's a little bit more different, a little different in terms of like what we take seriously and what we don't take seriously. And especially when you think about even the whole of Japan versus Tokyo. Tokyo people tend to be, I don't mean to sound mean, but Tokyo tend to be a little bit more uptight on a lot of things, or a little bit more like strict on certain, like how they present themselves to society. Yeah. And so it probably depends on where you're at. Here in Okinawa, like I'll eat an onigiri and walk. But maybe everyone's looking at me like, oh, that looks like a gaijin.
Who's this tourist?
Who's this gaijin?
Yeah, I always felt like Fukuoka was really chill. Like I never got into any trouble, or people never scolded me for doing stuff. And I think part of that is probably just a little bit like foreigners want to feel like that they're in a mysterious, the whole sort of, this culture I don't understand. And it's like, people they don't really care. Like I've never seen anybody get really angry about, odd little taboos like that before.
Yeah. And even if there are people out there who are frustrated by it, they're never going to say anything. Yeah. Right. But also I think there's a difference in like, most Japanese people understand that foreigners don't understand the culture, right? Like they're not expecting you to come here and like just know how to act like a Japanese person. So people are more chilled than I think.
Especially me, who stands out a lot over there. Like, I definitely look like I'm not from there, but I feel like because a good friend of mine, he was from Taiwan, so like obviously he's Asian, and we'd be walking around, and people would bump into me by accident and apologize, but they would bump into him and say nothing because they just assumed he was Japanese, and they're like, you know how it is here, like it's not personal, So they might have been expecting me to be like the loud American and hey, don't don't bump into me.
I actually have a question. Because you're this big, white guy. Did most people think that you were American?
I got German and American a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, most people probably do.
I had shorter hair at the time, and I think I have quite a big forehead on me. So I think that was where the German thing came from. The default tends to be American. Which I'm always usually pretty quick to correct them on because, if it's an old man kind of aggressively asking you if you're American, you think like, oh, maybe he's got some, some bad memories from the war and stuff. So you're pretty quick.
History.
Yeah. But was it in your brand? You had like team like 7-Eleven and Team Family Mart, and you had like a T-shirt for all of the convenience stores.
Oh yeah, I still see that shirt get sold every once in a while. I think other people have copied it and started selling it. But yeah, we had. So growing up, we didn't have 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven only came in 2019 in Okinawa.
Yeah.
So we had Family Mart and Lawson's. So anybody who was stationed in, it was always either Team Family or Team Lawson's. We only added the 7 later because people asked for it. But
yeah.
it was
Which team were you on?
Family all the way, baby.
Yeah, I think maybe we must have bonded over that because I was a big Family Mart fan as well.
Yeah.
There was a G-san, this old guy at my local Family Mart that I used to go to before going into work. I think he was just like a little bit perplexed by me, and he was kind of like, what's this guy doing here? And like kind of speaking Japanese. And I see him a lot, so he clearly lives here. But like, you know, what's his deal? But like, he was so useful. I was going to a wedding once and I had to bring, what are those envelopes called? They've got a specific type that you bring to a wedding.
Yeah. And it's for that you put money in it.
Yeah. The gag was that like there's a funeral one and a wedding one, and foreigners are always bringing the funeral ones to weddings. And so I called him over. I was
so awkward.
I was like, bro, I said to him, I was like, which one's the wedding one? And he pointed it out and I was like, yeah, thanks, man. And yeah, he was very useful to sort of have in my corner. Yeah, no, he was great.
That would have been kind of funny, though, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just a celebratory envelope, and there's just a funeral one in there. Like, what is this dude trying to tell us?
Yeah, exactly. But I think it was a you know, the guy who was getting married was the owner of an English school, so there was a lot of foreigners. So I think it would have just been, he would have probably had a little pile of them on his on his desk.
That would have been great.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So I was going to say, when you were stateside, was there anything that you missed from over there?
Oh my God, so much. I mean, the easiest things that people will say is like food.
Yeah.
Like you said, convenience and stuff. But for me, honestly, it was honestly, safety was a big thing. Because like, I think people don't realize, like, I didn't live in terrible places in America, but there were definitely gunshots every once in a while. You know what I mean? And so like, I mean, I've seen people get shot when I was in the States.
Damn.
So like, it's one of those things where like, I do this every night. I go on a walk at like 9 or 10 p.m. It's completely dark. The roads aren't lit that well, but I don't really feel like, I know that danger could potentially exist. There are crazy people everywhere, but there's a difference, a safety difference of like how comfortable I feel walking around at night, especially as a girl. So that was a huge thing. Oh man, I don't know. There was just like, it's been kind of a minute now, but there was just like, even just, it's a little different now though, because like growing up in Japan, I was like 20 when I went back to the States, and I lived in the States for 10 years. So there was like this version of Japan that I remember when I was a kid growing up, but then living here as an adult, it's a completely different feeling, because now I have to pay taxes. Now I have to do adult things. And now there's like frustrations that I do recognize that like Japan lacks that America does better sometimes. So I have an appreciation for both. I do. But also I recognize that both of them also have their downsides. So it's just trying to pick apart which one I'm more comfortable being in.
That's true. Yeah. I feel like we've spent so much time dissecting your background. Let's talk about what you actually do. So you are, would you call yourself like a filmmaker? Would that be the best way to describe you?
That would be you'd be the first person to ever put that label on me, and I kind of like it actually.
Like your Louis Theroux.
Yeah, like Louis Theroux.
How would the Japanese Louis Theroux? They would probably struggle with his name a little bit, I think. Yeah,
it's a little bit of a tongue twister.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've just called myself a YouTuber, a content creator, but I mean, we can do filmmaker. That makes me sound cool.
Because how long have you been doing video stuff for? Because were you doing it when we kind of met and were doing the apparel company?
So, oh man, film and content creation has been kind of part of my life ever since I was a kid. Like, I mean, I remember my first video I ever posted on YouTube was in like 2008. Wow. With the intention of making a channel, but I don't know, back then I had a lot less security and confidence. So it like I could have been like Shane Dawson or something because they all started around that time. But
yeah, that's devastating.
I just didn't keep. Yeah, I just didn't keep going. I just didn't end up like because my insecurities and stuff. But I've been on and off, really going into it probably since 2015, 2016. But I've had 7, 8 different channels until I like finally am here where I'm at now. So
you're almost like a stand-up comedian, trying to find your voice, because like I still feel like I don't know what my voice is on stage, but it's one of those things that you have to just try or just do it for a long time and try a lot of different things, and then you sort of eventually naturally settle into it. Like right now, you said you were doing like challenge kind of based stuff. Is that right?
Yeah. So I think it kind of also changes with your not personality, but what your interests are as well. And that probably is the same with comedy as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And being ADHD, like my ideas change so rapidly, you know, what I'm into.
Yeah.
For a while I was doing, especially back in 2015, 2016, I was really into the what is it? Like
like improvement.
Like self-improvement, entrepreneur, mentorship type of niche. So I had 3 or 4 channels that I tried doing that. And then there was a period where I was doing the Japanese thing, right? Because like I was doing a vlog every day. I was back in Japan.
Yeah.
After doing that for a year, though, I was like, I don't know, like I love living in Japan, but Japan isn't necessarily a topic that I'm really that interested in.
Sorry for making you talk about.
No. No, I mean, it's like more about like, you know how like people like Chris Broad, they like talk about
like J vloggers kind of thing.
Yeah, J vloggers.
Yeah.
Like I live here, I grew up here, so it's not a topic that really excites me.
Yeah, yeah.
But I've had this idea for a while of doing challenges, but right now I'm just doing kind of more like a weight loss thing because I'm trying to get my body to a healthy place. But eventually I want to take my channel to do like maybe incorporate traveling as well. So maybe I'll find someone in New Zealand who specializes in something and I'll go, you know, travel there for 3 months and learn what they do.
Very
and then
cool.
Try to do that. And then, so eventually when I have the funds and the means to do it, I want to eventually take my channel that way. But for now,
I think I don't know if you even realize this about your content, but for me, what's so fascinating about it is like you're doing these challenges and bits and pieces, but like through that, we still get to see a little bit of Okinawan life as well. Like you did one kind of recently where you went for your yearly like health check, I think. I never did one of those when I was living there because I think the doctor's head would explode when they saw me walking through, but like
they were like, we don't have enough check boxes on
exactly.
That's what it felt like for me too. So
just a big batsu, which I think is cross, isn't it? Or like a
so cross.
Batsu. But what was cool about it was like, because you did a little bit beforehand and a little bit afterwards as well, and so we just got to see like you're walking around the street a little bit and like in the corridors of the hospital, and you did a marathon. Was it a marathon you did? You did a running.
I did a 5K.
5K, that's what it was. Yeah.
I'm editing the marathon video right now.
Yeah. And so like, that was cool to just see like, oh, what does a marathon look like in Japan? And like, yeah, I don't know. It still is kind of like, has that appeal of watching like a travel thing. But, we're also sort of getting to watch like daily life stuff, which I find a little bit more interesting than, you know, like when people do like a Hong Kong video and they go to like all the touristy stuff like that. It's not really that interesting to me. I kind of prefer learning about like what do the people who live here do when they're like, you know, exploring or having fun and everything like that. So that's why I've been quite enjoying your stuff lately because it's got many elements that I enjoy. So yeah.
Just like a daily slice of life thing and from a different country.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I guess it's also to an extent, it's just like you're a fan of people, right? So it's kind of like that parasocial friendship or whatever they call it. Like, it's just cool seeing you and Matt get up to stuff.
Yeah.
Is that his name? Matt? I didn't get his name wrong.
You got it right. Good job.
Well, that's good. Is he a YouTuber as well?
Yeah, he started off doing kind of similar things to me, like doing vlogs and stuff like that. But he also did the entrepreneur stuff. Now he actually does more faceless channels. He's more into like
Yes.
creating channels and doing like people don't know who he is, but he's the one creating the videos.
Yeah. I follow a few TikTok like help sort of subreddits, and that's a big thing of like people really want to create faceless faceless channels to
Faceless,
kick
yeah.
off. Um, I was curious as well, like we don't have to get into like exact numbers and stuff, but like just with the hustle of being, would you say you're self-employed?
I mean, I would probably classify it as that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I don't have any jobs or anything. That's all
Yeah.
I do. So.
I guess like just what is the hustle like of trying to sort of make it as a like self-employed or not self-employed, but just, you know, like a freelance kind of creative.
Yeah.
What is your kind of a day in your life look like?
Man, a day in my life. So, unlike a job, I don't have a strict schedule that I have to abide by, which is one of the beautiful things about being self-employed. But
Hell
it's
yeah.
also one of the harder parts of being self-employed because now you have to find your own motivation to do things. And you can easily just not do things, right?
Oh yeah.
And I
Yeah,
say
absolutely.
this sometimes on my channel is like, it's easier for people would rather do nothing than to do something. It's a lot easier. So
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of discipline, I think, that goes into it, which I lack tremendously. So it's a lot of just kind of fighting with myself in that regard.
Have you discovered any sort of like, you know how some people there's some theories about like productivity is sort of just figuring out how to hack your brain to make it respond. You know, you can gamify stuff. Have you discovered any hacks like that to sort of keep yourself motivated?
Yeah, I mean, dude, I've been kind of in this with the entrepreneur niche or like the self-improvement niche comes with a lot of productivity hacks that get thrown your way, and I tried a lot of them. And the only thing that really comes down to it is just really, oh man, it's just like, to me, it's a cliche word, but it's really discipline. Like you have to realize that whatever you're doing now, whether you want to do it or not, is what you're investing in to the future.
Yeah.
And that time is going to pass anyways, whether you do it or not. So you might as well do it rather than not,
Yeah.
But I think for me, there are a couple things. One is I work better during a certain time frame. So after noon, after 1 p.m., I am completely like, I have a really hard time focusing. I don't know what it is, but I have a really hard time focusing. So usually my best focusing hours are between 8 to probably noon.
Yeah.
7 to noon. And then I also do Pomodoro. So I do a 50-10 Pomodoro, which is, do you know what Pomodoro is?
No.
Okay. So Pomodoro it breaks down a time block. So a lot of people do like 25 minutes working and then 5 minutes break. And then they do 25 minutes working.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Break. And then you'll do that for 4 hours. I do a 50-minute working and then 10-minute break. And then I do that for 4 hours. And like, it helps because at first you have a really hard time getting into your work. But like, if you keep doing it 5 to 10 minutes in, you're like in the zone. And then it's like easier to work. But by scheduling, like, this is the time I work, it kind of helps. Like,
yeah, I think I found that it's harder to spin up and get going again than it is to kind of keep going when you're like you say, when you're in the zone or whatever. It feels like less energy is expended to keep going than to like, if you're getting like sort of interrupted and breaking up your day doing chores and all sorts of bits and pieces in between. It's I find that I find it much harder to get things done doing that.
Yeah, I go through phases. Some phases I just like, once I start the timer, I'll just keep, I'll just ignore the timer and just keep working if I feel like I can. But if I'm having a particularly hard time focusing, actually the breaks do help because I usually, as soon as the alarm goes off for break, I'm like in the middle of something. And so all I want to do is get back to it. Right. So when I come back to it, it's easier or even when I take a break, I'm like, that's in the back of my mind. So I can come back into it with a little bit of a fresh mindset.
Yeah,
So,
I think it was Ernest Hemingway who said he only stops writing for the day when he knows what's going to happen next because he's just can't wait to get back to it the next day. Yeah. So I think you've tapped into the same thing that old Hemingway was using on his.
Hell yeah, Hemingway.
So what does your kind of like release schedule look like? Do you do a reel every day? Do you do one a week? What are you kind of creating when you're working?
Oh, so I am the most disorganized person that I know. I try my best to be very schedule oriented. I think with my channel, especially right now, where I struggle with is, you know how people say releasing like once a week or something. It's like you want to be consistent. Well, especially with the nature of my channel being challenges and those challenges taking 30 days or maybe even longer. Like the marathon took me 6 months to do.
Yeah.
So sometimes I kind of feel guilty sometimes because the consistency isn't where it probably should be. So that's why I make other videos. I started releasing other videos talking about other subjects, but I think most of the people that are subscribed to my channel are subscribed to watch the challenges.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know, but there's also YouTubers out there that release 1 or 2 videos a year and do very, very well. So
that's right.
Yeah.
There's no roadmap to success, is there?
No, there isn't. I think it's more just show up and be consistent, whatever consistency looks like to you.
Great. So I just see now the Zoom thing has got 5 minutes left, so we should wrap things up in a nice bow. So the viewers out there, if they want to check out what you're doing, where can they find you online?
They can find me on my YouTube channel, Kit Zakimi, Kitzakimi. Instagram is also, I think, the same. But I'm pretty much on just those platforms for now.
Sweet. Yeah. I will chuck those in the show notes. So yeah, definitely go and subscribe. I do as well. And I've mentioned a little bit of the content that I like watching. So if that kind of thing appeals to you, then go and subscribe.
Yeah.
Any kind of closing thoughts? Anything you feel like would be good to get out there, or just, I don't know, anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
Not on my end. I don't know if you have any questions for me, like to finish up, or.
I think we covered a lot of it, to be honest. That absolutely flew by. It didn't feel like really 40 minutes, but no, it was good. Is that what Zoom
gives us? 40 minutes?
I'm on that peasant free Zoom, which only gives me 40 minutes.
Just the little crumbs from their server time. Yeah, got it.
Exactly. So we unfortunately make do with that. Well, we've got 4 minutes left to kill. It's only about 3 o'clock where you are. What is the rest of the day going to look like for you?
Well, I've been banging my head against this marathon video. I mean, I did the marathon in February and it's July now, and I've been banging my head for the last few months because it's 6 months worth of clips that I have to go through. So it's just been a lot of work, but I'll probably just bang my head against my computer doing that. For the rest of the day. How many parts do you think the video series will be? Is it just going to be one long one, or are you going to do it sort of weekly? I thought it was going to be a one long one, but I might do 2. I might break it up in 2, like the training phase and then basically the end. Right? That's a good idea. So little spoilers to the listeners here that Kit did survive the marathon. What was that like? I'm guessing that was not a lot of fun in the moment, but probably pretty satisfying once you'd finished it, right? Well, the spoiler is I didn't finish it. Oh no. Yeah, I got halfway. But obviously we'll pretend you don't know that. No. But there was a lot of things, even though I didn't finish it, there was a lot of lessons to be learned, and I'm really excited to throw that together. How far is half a marathon? That's 12? Well, it's 20, it's 21 kilometers, 20 something. I went 27. Yeah. 25 or 27. Half of that's still 13. That's still 13 more kilometers than I could do. So I think, definitely don't beat yourself up about not completing that. It's I could have gone physically. I could have gone longer. It was the time frame.
Yeah.
So I had to do it within a short amount of time, and I just couldn't make the checkpoint in time. But physically, I could have probably kept going.
Yeah. I've noticed that sometimes you probably get this a little bit as well when you're really in the zone with your exercises, like, because I've been boxing in a boxing bag at my garage, and I'll get a little carried away and start hitting it a bit harder, and I think like, yeah, I can take this. Like my knuckles and my wrists can take it, but then I think like, wait, no, you've got to do this tomorrow, and you got to host a quiz night tonight. You've got to use the computer later. Like you can't just like, not cripple might be the wrong word. I don't know if that's a PC word to say anymore, but damage yourself permanently.
Yeah, you got to be careful. I think that's the hard thing with challenges for me, because I'm a very like I'm like one of those people that I do it until I can't, like physically, and I hurt myself quite a bit doing that. So
the spirit is willing, but the body not as willing, or
exactly
could do it, but will do permanent damage if I do this.
Yeah. All right, so we're like a minute left.
Yeah, that's basically it, I think. So we'll just finish up here. So thanks for giving up some of your time to chat with me. I really appreciate it. It was good to talk to you kind of properly for the first time. Yeah.
Let's not be strangers, because this was actually a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, keen as.
I love to pick your brain. So I like to pick your brain too. So
happy to let you do that anytime. I don't know what the correct way to sign off in Japanese is. Osewa ni narimashita.
Osewa ni narimashita. Bye.
Okay.